Hi, Eddie. How are you today?
Very good. How are you today, Diane?
I'm doing great. So appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. I know you're a very busy man. So what I'd like to start off with, you and I haven't had a lot of opportunity to chat. So tell me a little bit more about, what it is that you do, what you can offer to my followers.
Basically, I'm a personal development coach for men, and I mostly help with the relationships and dating side. But in order to do that effectively, we have to really look at a man's life, and that's primarily what I do. I help them, figure out what the gaps are, where, why do they not have the confidence they should have, why are they not where they want to be right now already, and and how to get to where they'd like to go. Like I used to primarily just focus on the dating aspect, just dating skills, like walking up to a woman on the street and getting a phone number, getting a date, and all that kind of stuff, and what to do when they date. And those are still very important skills and an important thing to learn, and you can actually build confidence doing that, approaching strangers, and not just for dates, but it can be for other reasons as well, even that business networking.
Hmm.
But it's only a small piece of the whole picture. And if you're not covering other aspects of your life, you're not covering your health and your fitness, if you're not tackling your finances, and as well as any, if you're not moving towards your goals, all these things are going to affect how you feel on a daily basis, right? So I try to get men on track so they can actually create the relationships they want to have instead of just neglecting all these areas of their life that are going to have a major effect on it, right?
Yeah.
I had a guy come to me before, and after a short conversation, I discovered, he told me he couldn't get a second date. Every time he went on a first date, they wouldn't meet him a second time,
Hmm.
and I discovered he was on welfare, right?
Wow.
And yeah, so that's a huge gap right there. There's probably it says multiple things about him. It just for one that he doesn't really believe in himself. Like he wasn't trying to get off welfare. He wasn't really he had the typical excuses. Oh, I can't find a job, and I don't know. It just he had a very depressing, negative attitude, and I could feel this from him right away. And 100% guaranteed, any date he goes on, even if he doesn't tell them he's on welfare, his own confidence and his negativity is that's gonna be communicated to any date he has.
Sure.
And of course, they're not going to want to see him a second time. Who wants to be around that kind of energy, right?
Yeah.
So before even like thinking about dating, he needs to, at the very least, just get an entry level job. It doesn't even matter what kind of job it is. Just start building his own confidence to realize that he can do it himself. He doesn't have to be dependent on, on another welfare for one or any other kind of system, right? He can work on his own things and create whatever he wants in his life, right? And that's going to affect his dating. He's going to get far more second dates if he can actually just get off welfare for starters, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we could probably all use some of that guidance in our lives. So that's where you're talking about that whole personal development. And I think of, just a lot of people that I know. And like I said, just that self-confidence. It's amazing how that can shine through when people, have their life kind of in order.
Oh,
So,
totally. Yeah, it kind of seeps into everything we do. If we're negative and we don't have any confidence, it doesn't matter what we do. Other people are going to feel that and see that. Our results are going to, speak for themselves. Doesn't matter. A lot of people too, when they don't have very good confidence, they will stop short of actually going all the way to accomplishing their goals. Even when they start something like a New Year's resolution is a really good example. Most people who start their New Year's resolutions don't actually complete them. Like the number one is probably fitness, losing some weight,
yeah,
right?
always.
Yeah, but and then they don't do it, and so they create this negative pattern, and they're always doing it. They don't believe in themselves. They don't have the confidence to believe in themselves. Even when they start this new endeavor, they're just repeating the same cycle every single year. And it's they don't even think about it. They don't think about the 5 other years that they set the same resolution and didn't do it because they never even wrote any goals on paper in the first place. But it's in their mind. Their mind knows what's happening,
Yeah.
and they're just repeating. Keep doing the same pattern over and over again. They don't believe in themselves, right?
Yeah. So are you kind of like the character Hitch from the movie? Is that what you do?
Not, not exactly. Do hear that a lot, but yeah, if somebody wants to get in an awesome relationship, I can definitely help them do that. But again, I'm looking at other areas of their life, not just the dating skills. But
Right.
I will take them out, and obviously, in order to meet women, you have to go meet women. And if you want to get good at any kind of social skill, you should actually practice it. So you should go to networking events and go with friends, making new friends, especially because going out with your old friends isn't going to really help very much as staying in the comfort zone. But yeah, definitely, just the act of going out and trying to talk to strangers, that's going to, have a huge boost. So I help guys with that as well,
Yeah.
get their dating skills in order.
And that's something I've noticed, so you know a little of my story, but as a empty nester and kind of re-entering the dating scene, that's sort of a change that I've made over the last year, is just trying to be more social, just get out there. Like I said, you're not going to find anybody sitting at home in front of the TV. So, it's made a huge difference, just kind of putting myself out there a little bit, but it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, no, because you're doing something different, right?
Yeah.
And it's more comfortable to sit at home and watch YouTube or whatever it may be.
Watch other people live their lives, right?
Exactly, or make comments, right? Because we're putting ourselves on the line. We got to overcome inertia, especially creating a new habit. That can be very difficult as well. But I tell people too, when you're creating a new habit, especially when in the creation process for a new habit, which is really it's essential for accomplishing anything. You should work with the way you already are as much as possible. Like, don't, making too many radical changes too quick is a good recipe for failure.
Right.
Right. And just for one example, I have I have a major sweet tooth, right?
Okay.
So for me to stop eating excessive sugar, because I was really eating a lot before, and I had managed to, even as a guy who wouldn't normally put on excess weight, I managed to put on a little bit extra weight because of that in the past. But to overcome that, instead of just going cold turkey, which I tried numerous times, doesn't work at all, right? At midnight, when you're the weakest and the willpower is the weakest, it's straight to the Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah.
And that's actually happened to me numerous times. But instead, I said, okay, well, what can I do? What's an alternative to to cover my cravings? And so I started getting very sweet fruits. I started getting ripe peaches and mangoes and all this different kind of stuff, which also in excess probably isn't good, but it's way better than anything you're going to be getting out of an ice cream bucket, right?
Yes.
And just doing that alone, I cut off all the excess fat that I had put on from all the sugar cravings I had before. Just switch.
Yeah. We seem to be having a little audio difficulty, so I can't hear. Oh, there. I think you're back. Okay.
Yeah, internet technical problems.
All right, no problem. So I can have a few questions here. Do you mind if I just kind of ask you a few questions, get your input?
Go ahead.
So, one of the things I've noticed when I go onto dating sites is obviously the amount of information that's shared on a profile varies significantly. So if you're giving someone advice as far as creating their profile, what kind of advice do you give them?
Well, that's really important. I think you probably heard this as well, especially for men. If they go on dating sites, they don't get very many responses, and they frustrate and they quit. They stop trying online dating. There's three main areas in online dating to make it work. There's obviously the message you send, as a man, the message you send to a woman, the profile, the stuff you wrote, and the pictures. Pictures are crucial.
Yeah.
And I can't believe, with some of the people I've worked with, I can't believe the pictures they've chosen for their profiles. Like it amazes me. Right, really bad pictures, blurry pictures, bad lighting that gives really dark circles under their eyes, and other dark shadows, and they just don't realize it, right? People will be completely oblivious to stuff. They're not paying attention to these details.
Right.
For each individual, obviously you can write different kind of profiles, but writing anything negative, I'll just give a few quick tips here because it's too hard to really nail it down in the short interview. But some stuff you guys can do right away if they're trying online dating and they want to get better responses. Don't put anything negative on your profile. I've seen guys write about how they were living in their mom's basement and they just got a bad relationship and blah blah blah. But they really want to meet somebody. It's like, well, who cares? Like, nobody wants to be with you because nobody's going to want to absorb that negativity again, right?
Right.
So don't put anything negative on your profile. Obviously, you're always going to focus on the positive and stay honest about it. You don't have to exaggerate and pretend you have like a Lamborghini when you don't. But just stay positive about everything. Don't give other people your baggage. Nobody's interested in your baggage. So stay away from any baggage. Photos, make sure the shadows aren't dark. Really important. Don't show photos with like 5 other guys or standing there and you're with 3 girls. Nobody cares about those other people, and it takes attention away from you. Another really important one, this is also for women as well, don't put yourself in a photo with somebody else who's way more attractive than you are. Right? There's psychological principles behind this, right? Because regardless of how good you look, you could be a good-looking person, but you put yourself beside the bikini model or supermodel type person, the Calvin Klein underwear model, in your photo. Now, even if you're good looking, now you look now in comparison much less good looking, right?
Okay.
Right? It's this comparison thing. The brain automatically figures this out, and it says, you automatically sink way down here, and the other person's like way up here. If you were alone in that photo, being whatever level of attractiveness you have already, you're going to be much higher. Like people looking at you, there's not going to be a comparison to somebody who looks better than you.
Okay. Oh, we lost sound again. work your magic.
Where did I get cut off there?
Just as you start talking about, of course, you got done kind of saying about having attractive people in the picture. So I'll remember to take pictures with my less attractive friends.
Just don't have anybody else in your photos. There's no reason. Like it's a distraction. Even if people are more attractive than you, it's a distraction from people. They want to see you. That they're looking at you to see you as a potential.
Yeah. So I still don't have sound, Eddie.
Sound is off again. It's really weird. And oh yeah, totally off. Crazy. What is wrong with this? Is this better?
Yes, there we go.
Okay, so I'm not sure what's happening. I just haven't plugged my other microphone, which is way better. But if this sounds better, we'll go with it.
Okay, it works. Okay.
Right, it works.
So you know what, and that's here's one thing that always really surprises me is someone who has a profile out there with no picture. Like I am just not going to respond to someone who has no picture at all. So I always find that interesting.
No, it's totally true. That's another thing too. Like if somebody doesn't have a picture, well, that's a no-brainer. I should. But again, a lot of people aren't looking at these kind of details, and I think, well, why wouldn't somebody want? Well, you don't even have a picture. Actually, it wasn't somebody who didn't have a picture, but somebody I went on a date with before. She told me about a date she had off from online dating, and she met a guy who was supposed to be black, but he turned out he was a white guy. His profile pictures and the multiple pictures was of a black man. And that's who she was expecting to meet, but she ended up meeting with a white guy, so of course she left. And, like, I don't know if it was a joke or the guy was serious, but apparently he tried to turn it on her and blame her for being shallow for not wanting to stay. It's like, well, you lied in your profile picture. Yeah. Completely different person.
Yeah, I think that's definitely just the honesty in your profile. I don't really understand not being truthful, because if you're looking for any sort of relationship, you're going to meet this person someday, hopefully. And so if you're, lying about photos, age, that sort of thing, I don't really understand how that all works going forward.
Very bad way to start a relationship.
Well, and I think that's kind of it. I did have a date, and I went, and the pictures the gentleman had on there were obviously older pictures. And it just makes you feel like right off the bat that they're lying to you, and that is just not a good place to start.
Totally. Yeah, I wouldn't even consider a relationship with somebody like that.
Yeah.
They lied about their profile. I've met women too, like I've done a lot of online dating in the past, and I've met women who had profile pictures that are old and they were very different now. And, of course I cut the day short because, I was lied to already, so I wasn't interested anymore.
Yeah. So
I think this happens to other women.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it works both ways, men and women. So, question, this was an interesting, I saw a survey out there, and this was where people felt it was appropriate to have like a first date. And I'll just share that the survey said 25% of the people thought that it was appropriate to have it at their house, first date, and 25% thought it was great to have it at the other person's house. And I thought that was very interesting statistics to me, because that's probably wouldn't be something I would consider as a great place for a first date. So weigh in on that.
Well, I'm actually surprised, sort of surprised that there's that statistic there. Well, not completely though, because I have said a lot of first dates at my place. I've been on a lot of dates to learn what I've learned, and a lot of the dates either from online dating or if a woman that I met on the street, somewhere I approached in a grocery store or whatever. Excuse me. Yeah, a lot of women are willing to actually come over. Like it depends on the impression you make. Obviously, for an in-person meeting, like if I approach somebody in the street, they already at least saw the real human. The online thing is, I think, even more interesting though, because they actually haven't met me,
Right.
or the other people who, they're open to going to the person's house. But it wasn't uncommon at all. I had a very high percentage of the women I went on dates with were happy and willing to come to my place on the first date. Not even meeting in the cafe first and going after, like, they actually come straight over.
Yeah.
So.
But do you, I mean, I guess as a female, for me, I just, from a safety aspect, that just seems kind of crazy to me, I guess. Now, you seem like a very
Yeah.
nice guy. I'm not sure I would have gotten that, though, even from, an online picture profile. Like you said, I can understand if you meet someone in the street or you go to a cafe first, that may change things. But just that initial meeting someone, that seemed very surprising to me.
It's surprising to me too, and it's something that I actually utilize many times. Like,
Yeah.
they would come to my place, and in the beginning, especially, I was very surprised about it. But then it just became a regular thing for me. I always set up dates in my place. I had different goals at that time. Like, I'm in a relationship now, but I had different goals when I was doing this kind of stuff, and it just, it worked out very well. But yeah, no, it is a surprising thing because you think, like, naturally you think, well, why would they go to your place? They don't even know you. Like, from online dating, especially, they haven't met you. You've seen pictures. Like, what if you're not even the same person in the picture, right? I'm sure that happens too. It never turned out very badly, and like in my case, I can see, like, there obviously is potential for danger there. Like, you can never be 100% safe in reality. Like, people think, if you go on a few dates or whatever, you know the person a little bit. That's probably it's a good start. But even then, you can never be 100% safe. Like, you'll always be learning new things about a person. And if somebody is manipulative and they do have bad intentions, some of those people can hide it very well, right? So you have to kind of go with your own gut feeling. If there's anything off, any red flags come up, any alarm bells,
Yes.
then you just go with that gut feeling and don't go any further.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I still don't understand it completely, but yeah, a lot of people are definitely open to that. A lot of women will come over.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, what kind of advice do you give men about kind of approaching intimacy, like how long they should wait, or what kind of guidance do you give them?
I'm a very direct person, and I move very fast. I think actually a big mistake most men make, especially a lot of kind of guys that I work with, is they are genuinely nice men, and but they don't understand too. They can go a lot faster, and they can still get a relationship out of that. Like, they don't have to be going on multiple dates, so you don't have to be doing this kind of like fairy tale, like, romance. You can move faster. You can invite somebody over to your place, on the first date even, right? And so basically, my advice to men, especially guys who feel like, who consider themselves nice guys, who they're basically, as a nice guy, they're basically just too timid. They move too slow, and they don't know how to lead, right? So if you want something, if you like somebody, you meet them on a date and you're attracted to them, there's no reason why you can't invite them home, right? So move faster. It doesn't mean it's going to be like this one night stand thing, and it doesn't even mean anything will happen at all. Somebody can come to your place, and sex may not happen, right? It's not 100% guaranteed, even if somebody comes over, right? But it's fine, right? At least you're taking initiative and leading, and going somewhere with it, right? Because if you're not willing to take initiative, you're not willing to lead, not willing to do a little bit of physical contact, at least you might as well be with your friends, because that's what you're acting like, right? A date is a date, and then a social thing with your friends, that's a different animal, right? So if you're on a date, act like you're on a date at least. Go for a kiss. Like, you don't have to be like, being overly aggressive is one thing, but as a man, you should at least take the initiative. At least move it like one step closer to what your goals are, right? Which it could be, it could be sexual, it could be a relationship. It really doesn't matter, and it could be both. Like, you could end up in a relationship from something that started off as a kind of like a fling, right? Like, it really can go in any direction, right? That's really up to the people involved. Depends on the chemistry.
Yeah, very interesting. I think that kind of feeds back into what you were saying in the beginning about people just, having that self-confidence and knowing what their goals are and what they want to accomplish. I'm sure it all comes into play as you just go through this whole process.
Yeah, it is good also, like, ahead of time to have something in mind for what you want to do. Like, have a plan. Like, don't just kind of go like a leaf in the wind. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. And again, a lot of guys do that, and that's a big mistake they make. Again, it's like the nice guy thing. I call it like nice guy syndrome, just because they don't know. They're afraid to take charge. They're afraid of offending other people. and they won't do anything. They won't, they won't try to grab the hand or even go for a kiss or, even like an invite to bring a woman home would be like, seem like a big thing to them, but it shouldn't be a big thing. You should, carry it out like it's, it's the average day. It's the thing you do, right? It's not a big deal. It's not like you're not doing something offensive.
Right.
A lot of women want that too. A woman wants a man to take the initiative, and at least try. Like every time you go for a kiss doesn't mean you're going to get it, but at least when you're making an effort, you're showing your interest, right? And it might happen next time. Even if it didn't happen this time, it could happen the next time. And again, they're going to know your interest. They're going to know you're a man who takes charge and you would lead. Right? It's really important. Demonstrate who you are inside.
Yeah, I think, like I said, most of us like another person who is. I like direct people, know what they're thinking, what it is they're looking for. I think if you leave out the gray area, you're usually more successful.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't want to be you don't want to be the guy. Have a plan, basically.
So I know we've talked a little bit about how you approach and help men when they're kind of starting dating or they're not being successful at dating. So if we talk about kind of online dating, what's some advice you give to people just initially online dating, getting started? Because I was very nervous about doing online dating. I had a lot of friends that had done it. I'd never tried it until, 3 or 4 months ago. And I think you hear a lot of stories out there, and you're just really unsure about how to approach it. So what kind of advice do you give?
Just for starting up, I would say, well, for both men and women, you have to be willing to fail and take a risk, right? Step out of your comfort zone. Like some people kind of go on there and they, find this, or at least from my personal experience, there'll be women who are playing games because they're not willing to commit to actually going out. They say they want to get to know you first by email, which is ridiculous because you're not going to get to know anything. All you're going to see is whatever is on paper. You're not going to feel, there's no personality there. You're not going to get a sense of the person, by being with them. The body language, there's so much communication that's being cut out by electronic communication, right? So you have to be willing at least, go out and meet people. Like don't be stuck on the keyboard. Don't be keyboard jockey. Actually go, on dates and go meet people. Go to a cafe or whatever it may be. But get face to face. That's really important. So don't stay behind the keyboard. I know women have told me the same frustrations as well. They'll talk to a man online, and the guy will be, basically the same thing. It's kind of email back and forth or text messaging back and forth, but they never actually set up a date. So as a man, don't do that too. Like don't try to make her attracted to you or like you by sending emails. It's not going to happen. She's going to lose interest really quickly and disappear, and you're stop getting replies. So as soon as you initiate that contact and the initial rapport, set up the date right away. Basically, set it up within maybe 2 or 3 messages maximum. But you shouldn't be just messaging back and forth. And now that kind of changes the whole dynamic, and now it's more of a messaging thing instead of having a goal of going out and being in a face-to-face date, right? So initiate, go on real dates. Don't be on the computer.
I think that's it's very interesting because I think a lot of my friends had that experience of a lot of texting, emailing back and forth, and then they'd finally go on a date. So one of my experiences, literally the guy wanted to go on a date right away, like next day, and I was like, oh, is this normal? But we went on the date, and he just kind of said that same thing. He goes, I'd much rather have face-to-face interaction. I think that's where you really get to know somebody, see if there's any, chemistry, attraction, that sort of thing. So otherwise, might be just wasting some time.
Oh, totally. And yeah, you have other things to do instead of sending messages to somebody you don't know.
Yeah.
So find out if they're even worth getting to know. Like go meet, like whatever they're on a profile interests you, and they have the right tone in their messages, and go and meet them in person and actually see what's going to happen, right? So there's nothing to lose. Like the only thing you lose is being single, right?
And you're already single typically, so there you go.
Exactly.
Or you hope, anyway, if you're going on dates.
Yes, exactly.
So can you share with me one of what you feel was one of your great success stories that you know of helping somebody achieve their goals with dating?
Great success stories. There's numerous ones, but one guy in particular, I guess you say, I had contact with him recently. He's a client of mine from the past. I worked quite a bit with him, but he had numerous things in his history that would affect his personality. Now he's a really nice guy, but other people couldn't see that because of the way he was coming off. and he even had a head injury a number of years ago, which affected the way his eyes actually the way his eyes actually look at you, and that was something not be changed. It couldn't be changed behaviorally because it's actually his eyes from the head injury caused some kind of damage. Even though he was a perfectly functioning human being, there's something coming off a little bit weird in his eyes, and women obviously feel that, and they reject him like constantly. But he was very persistent and consistent too. He never gave up. And recently he's got into a relationship with somebody who's really interested in him. He messaged me to thank me for this because he just it's something for years he wasn't able to overcome this challenge, and finally his persistence and just pure grit, he was able to actually meet somebody who was compatible with him, who likes him. So that was a big one from the recent history book.
And obviously we all try not to be shallow, and but it's hard to sometimes get over some of those physical things that distract you in the beginning, and hopefully we all get better at trying to overcome those and get to know the person a little bit better before we make that judgment.
Yeah, we're kind of hardwired for that anyways, right? So it's not, there's good and bad to it, right? It's like the physical part does matter, but regardless of who you are, you can change people's perception of you in a dramatic way by doing some minor things, just changing the way you dress, just again on a superficial level, because it does have an effect. Change the way you dress, and then again work on your actual confidence. Do stuff that's going to make you be more vibrant and have a better energy for other people. So people want to be around you because you have a good energy, right?
Yeah.
You never put anybody down.
Yeah, I think that's like you mentioned earlier, being positive and being around positive people is always a plus. So
yeah, huge.
How about and this doesn't have to be one you were necessarily involved in, but what about a sort of a disaster story of, where someone didn't have success with online dating?
Online dating. And just to clarify that the last story wasn't from online dating. I actually taught him how to meet women in public. But for online dating, I wouldn't say that I don't really have too many any disaster stories, actually, not from my own clients. From dates I've gone on, people, just like the story I told you with the woman who was meeting somebody who she thought was going to be a black man, and turned out he was a white guy, so total lie right there. And I guess another woman that I've dated before in the past, she met somebody from, where was he? I can't remember the state, but basically he had a picture of a supermodel, like a male model, on his profile. And she met him in person, and he was actually short and overweight and very, very not attractive, and completely opposite of what the picture was. And so that I could say that would be a disaster, right? Because again, he actually flew from the state he was in, because they were remote. They met online, and he was not even in the same state. And he actually flew over to her, and he was a completely different person. He totally misrepresented himself, right? The only thing he had going for him it was the fact that he had his financial well-being, it has his financial status intact, right? But other than that, the liar. So that didn't last, obviously, because she was totally disappointed. She thought she was meeting this model, and it turned out, it's more like Danny DeVito.
Yeah, that would be a bit of a disappointment. And see, right there, that's just so interesting. I'm not sure, why someone would, go that far down the road in a relationship to fly, across country somewhere to meet somebody when you've lied about who you really are. So, yeah, that sounds like a disaster.
Yeah, he even had kids. And he said he didn't.
Wow.
Like 3 kids, so.
So, what type of is, once again, this might be kicking a little bit back to the hitch thing, but as a female and online dating, what is it I should really maybe understand about men, or maybe advice that you would be giving them that maybe I should be aware of that could help in the whole process?
For women?
Yeah, like what is it we need to know about men as we go into this whole dating adventure?
Well, if a man wants to take you home, it doesn't necessarily mean he just wants a one-night stand, right? So, and I think that's a very common perception too. Like, because again, I'm very direct, I'm very forward, and also my goals in the past were different. But just because you go home with somebody doesn't mean that you just want a one-night stand. it also doesn't mean that, even if they just want a one night stand, it'll only be a one night stand. Because I've had the experience before multiple times where, I took somebody home and we ended up, the chemistry is awesome. We ended up having a relationship, right? So that's, I guess that'd be like one major thing, right? So it's kind of like, if a man's moving fast isn't necessarily a bad thing. You take it, take it as the way it is. Doesn't mean you have to go home with me either. Like, go for your own, for your own goals, right? So, but don't discount somebody necessarily just because they are, moving a little faster than you're comfortable with.
Okay. All right. I'll try to keep that in mind as I go along. So I'm going to share with you just a little experience that I've had. Like to get your input on it. So I met someone online. This was a gentleman who wanted to get together right away. So we met, had a really nice lunch, great conversation, had a lot of things in common. He was leaving to go out of town for a couple of weeks. So for, a week and a half, we're texting, and he's saying very nice things, can't wait to see you again, all this. And then communication stops 100%. What do you think? What would be your theory or some of the theories that what may have happened there?
Well, people get scared, right? So that'll happen with women as well. Because, everything seems like you're going well. You have a set to meet. The most time somebody disappears.
Yeah.
Right. And you hadn't met this person yet, like you.
No, we met. We met, had lunch, had a great time. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a tough one, right? Again, because it's possible they didn't feel it, or they got scared too. Again, people will make excuses in their head. It's also very possible people didn't even clear what he wanted. So when you met, he could have had a different. You might have thought you wanted something different than what he wanted. He wasn't really clear what he wanted in the first place. They go, oh, no, I can't do that. And then just disappear. Like, different people have different reasons. Like, you can't really nail it down specifically on this one. But it is very common. Obviously, it happens. A lot of women will do that, men, and vice versa. But if that happens to you, I would say just kind of it's over. It's done. It's like, okay, well, I'm done with it. It's in the past now. You kind of move on. Like, if it happens consistently, though, then I'd say that might be a sign of something. Like the guy who I mentioned who was on welfare and is going to get second dates. If it's happening consistently, kind of look inside yourself and see what might be happening. See if it's a behavioral thing. Like, are you being negative on the dates, right? Or maybe are you being overly aggressive? That can be a big turnoff for a woman as well. As a man, the man's too aggressive, then that's going to be like scary. It's going to be scarier, obviously. Right, so just look what you're doing if it's happening on a basis. If it just happens every once in a while, it's just one of those things. It kind of goes along with the dating territory. You just you forget about it and you move on to the next one.
All right, I'll try not to take it personally. I'll just move on. So once again, appreciate your time. Is there any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with both men, women? I have followers, of course, from both genders. So what's your words of advice?
Well, if your dating life isn't working out and you don't have the relationship you want right now in your life, look at yourself first. Don't blame other people for the situation you're in. You always should take 100% responsibility for wherever you are in your life and whatever area, whether it's your business, your career, or your relationships. Like, look at what you're doing, because that's going to tell everything about the kind of results you have. So look at yourself first, and then figure out what's the challenge, what's the problem. You can get feedback from other people, because sometimes we can't see. We don't see blind spots. We don't know why we're actually not getting the results we want. Get a coach. It could be a relationship coach, dating coach. You can work on somebody. Get a coach for your business. Again, like, if you don't have what you want already, there's a reason for it. 100%. It has nothing to do with other people. It has to do with what you're doing. So look inside first, and then fix it and work on it. Right? It's always a process.
Sounds like great advice. I'm sure we can all look at ourselves and figure out some areas where we can improve. So, Eddy, thank you again so much for your time. Maybe we'll connect again someday in our paths. So I appreciate all your advice. I'm sure my followers will love it.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me on.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.